Nia Amina Minor.
Hi, my name is Nia Amina. I'm also here to demand justice for Riddell Jones. The community needs the status report on the killing of Ezell Ford and Riddell Jones. Have the officers been disciplined? No information has been given to the public. It's been 2 weeks since the death of Riddell Jones and over a year since the death and murder of Ezell Ford. The officers' names. Who was responsible? They are dangerous to our community. I live in that community. You may not. You may not think they're dangerous. They might not be dangerous to your group, but they are dangerous to my community. We need to know. They should be fired, and we cannot wait your 6 to 12 months of investigation because people will be murdered in that time. Fire Chief Beck. Let me just put it plain. This police chief has consistently and constantly shown a blatant disregard for the lives of our community and especially Black people. You have the ability to remove him, and I demand that you do. When people are gunned down and murdered, and when your police become the judge during executioner, people are going to be passionately outraged. What you don't do is leave the room when they make public comments, as you did last week. We attempted to voice our concerns, you left, and then surrounded us with 30, probably more, police officers armed, and what were they doing? Standing with their hands rested on their guns. Let me tell you, you know that we've been searched and screened. You know what process we've been to get into this room to make our comments. We had to sit through a lot of deception, a lot of games to make our passionate comments. Your response, a demonstration of the very thing that I'm talking about. Over-policing strategies that need to be changed or completely eradicated.
Hi, my name is Jamie Garcia. I'm with Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. I just want to make one example out of this officer when we talk about training and we talk about de-escalation tactics. And what exactly he did was he stepped into conflict. And I've seen him rip microphones off of people. And I've cautioned him before that that type of behavior is going to lead to him killing somebody. And so these things, I just don't really believe that these officers are being trained to de-escalate, which leads me to my point that more training and more money spent on training doesn't really change behavior, and he's an exact example of that. But I really wanted to talk about the human impact of LAPD policies in our community. So when we talk about the sabotaging of the digital in-car video systems, one of the things I want to say is what happened to all those people where these cameras were sabotaged? What about their lives? Does those lives not matter as to what possibly happened? And this commission did not want to investigate. And Mr. Bustamante said, I can only do what the commission tells me to do, and he's bogged down with work and all these excuses, which I kind of believe that he probably is bogged down with work, but doesn't that say that this commission should do something about that? So obviously the impact of that sabotaging really puts little faith that if the body cameras are sabotaged, that any type of investigation will occur. So that's something else we need to think about. And then when we think about suspicious activity reporting, all these new counterterrorism policies and how they're going to affect the community, we have to start to investigate what kind of impact they're having and what community they're having an impact on, because we're already seeing a trend in racial profiling, and there's tons of federal funding and there's tons of local funding that are going into these policies. We already see what the consequences of the war on drugs were. How much more data are we going to need to collect on these new policies to find out that they're impacting communities, possibly incarcerating people who don't deserve to be, that should not be incarcerated. And again, just to reiterate, body cameras are a waste of resources. We don't need to give police officers more money to make them honest. I mean, it was very clear to my mother, who doesn't even study this stuff, that why should we actually use these things to make officers honest? Now, I hear you, Soboroff, but I have one last statement to make, and you don't have to be so disruptive yourself.
We're taking time out of this. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Omar, and I'm from the Stop LAPD Spying. I came here to really show much respect to everybody that has the audacity to sit down and be in a very sad and doomy mode at this point, because most of you guys have not really done your job well to really justify that a killing of a youth in South Central LA needs to be investigated and needs to be done in a way that is justifiable. Because for one thing, I'm here to represent my community. I'm here to represent the people that are highly concerned of what's happening in this city called Los Angeles. Apparently, we got like the worst police brutality in the nation, and you guys haven't really did anything about that. So what can we say? We just going to just pat you in the back? I don't think so. So best thing to do is to take more incidents. You know, wherever there's a brutality occurred around the corner or someplace here in the city, cameras from cell phones, Blackberries. I still use my Blackberry. It works well. And yes, we do most of the tape, but apparently body cameras don't necessarily do a thing to solve problems. And so you ought to give us much respect. You ought to give us much gratitude that we basically are fighting for justice. And apparently you guys are not doing a thing for us. So I wish you guys good luck and get a new job. Thank you.
Mike, can you like stop the time until I start talking, please? I just want to just make this publicly known that the disrespect from this commission is very offensive to me. It's breaking of the Brown Act. That's what I just want to make that clear. We have, as Black Lives Matter, we have demands, and one of the demands is that we get a progress report on Ezell Ford and Riddell Jones' case. We need information, we need transparency with the, again, because we can't trust the police to investigate themselves and do an honest investigation. We've seen corruption with police just recently with Paul Tanaka and Lee Baca. They have been found in corruption. So we can't trust you guys. So we need transparency and information. Also, we would like you guys to adhere to the Brown Act, which states that you guys are supposed to be listening respectfully, supposed to allow everyone to have an opportunity to speak. That's what you pulled so off, Steve, saying that you were going to dismiss the people in line because someone else was taking a long time. That's against the law. It's against the Brown Act, and you can't do that. Secondly, we want Chief Beck fired. Like he has made it very clear that he is not willing to discipline any of these officers who are found to have broken protocol, broken their own rules, and ended up killing an unarmed, innocent young man. How can you have someone who's chief of police who's not willing to discipline his own people? Again, that's why we can't trust you guys to police your own selves, because you guys are full of corruption. You guys are full of people that are going to just watch each other's backs and not just stand up and do the right thing. So that's our demands. That's what we want. We want you guys to adhere to these. We want you guys to listen and really take what the community is trying to tell you seriously. Even though I know, and please get rid of him. Please. He needs to go, because you guys look like you guys actually care. He doesn't give a crap about black people. He doesn't give a crap about what this community is going through. He does not care.
The final 6 speakers: General Jeff, Hamid Khan, Melvin Farmer, Ted Hayes, Jasmine Richards, and Jacqueline Richardson.
Go ahead.
Takia 2X, Nation of Islam. I would like to bring up 3 points.
I'm gonna let you speak, and I'll let you start over with your full 2 minutes, because I know it's your first time here, and I know that you didn't understand the rule about getting the card in on time.
Oh, I did. They told me it was too late, but I don't agree. So,
I'll
She's gonna speak.
let you speak this time.
2 minutes.
She's gonna speak.
Mr. Steve,
How do y'all want?
Okay, so you can go ahead and start.
humility. Google it. Second point, the body cam, the whole idea to eradicate use in the public and to try and make it a private thing and to practice discretion, the body cams were put into place so that the transparency between the police and the citizens was effective. Now, to be able to say that, you know, it's not going to be able to be viewed by the public basically eradicates its usefulness. We put it there not so that the police can see what they were doing, but so that the people can see how the police were not doing their jobs. And secondly, how can you expect somebody who you train, a police officer that you train for 6 months to know the law when it takes a lawyer 8 years? That doesn't make any sense to me. So you expect them to walk around and police the citizens when they don't have the whole law down to the book, and wondering why everybody is upset. And first of all, to the police officer who told me it was too late, I'm sorry, sir. It must have been that X that you saw by my name. But understand this, I'm multiplied by God, and I will be heard regardless. All of us will be heard. Thank you. I got up just like everybody else did. So thank you for listening. And again, Mr. Sabrinoff, humility. Practice it.
Next.
Melvin Farmer. I'm addressed the police violence. And everything I say here is true stories, so I don't have to rehearse it. This is not just started. When I was 15, walking in the alley on 81st and Hoover, 2 law enforcement white cops pulled me at the age of 15, grown men. Put my hands on top of the car where it was hot. Searched me, let me go. But they said, when you leave, you got to run. I knew without a doubt if I'd ran, they'd shot me in the back. So what I did, I dropped on my knees, put my hands over my head, and told them if you kill me, they're gonna know. So this problem's been in existence. Now, that's at 15, but the lesson I learned from that to this day, and it permeates all across the United States, because all these police killings, all of them got one common